Hello. Happy Saturday. I'm gonna do a short little stream day panel if anybody wants to come up, but I don't think I'm gonna keep it going long today. Hey, Daniel Barry. Happy Saturday. um, a few channel updates and kind of housekeeping tips. Oh, good news, big news. I made a Ko-fi coffee account. It's not a Patreon. It's just like a tip jar or a donation link. So instead of waiting on YouTube to get monetized, I made that in the meantime. Here's what's going on with the channel. I am pretty much a one-man show right now. And it's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. I'm going to try to keep this channel going like I intended. I intended to be several things. A third space for people like me, neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD males, primarily. I wanted it to be a vehicle for educational content when I had something to present. I want to have guests on and have like more focused, targeted conversations. So I'm gonna try to find ways to incorporate all of that. I think this kind of like mixed format can be tightened up a little bit. So I'm gonna work on that. No stream tomorrow. I'm gonna take a little break, and so I'm gonna come back next week and do that topic on the internalization of romance that I've been wanting to do, and then after that, I think I'm gonna start doing the topics separate from the live streams and the open panel. I may even like pre-record them and just post them as videos. I want to do that series on peer support after that. So as far as right now, we're going to do this one little last open panel, and then we're kind of going to play it by ear from there, depending on people's interests, the responses, my ability to support this channel on my own. Like I may just have to go out and re-enter the workforce for a while and build up some more funding for myself. So that's what's going on with the channel. I've been going over this book, The Passion of the Western Mind. You'll notice two words. You'll notice the word passion. You'll notice the word mind, Western mind. I'm an let me pull up that personality chart. I want to show y'all something. I am an intellectual. I am a proud intellectual. It's as fundamental to my identity as being gay is. In fact, it showed up in my life much earlier than the gay and all the other stuff. I was diagnosed as gifted in the first grade. I was put into special programs. I went to special schools for gifted people, etc. Like I cannot separate myself from my curiosity, my drive to think and make sense of the world and all of that. And I mean, going back to Socrates, that kind of hyper curiosity or hyper rationality has always gotten on people's nerves and not been the most welcome thing. I tried to create a space here where that identity could be validated and affirmed and have a place to kind of grow and thrive. But that's not quite happening in the way I envisioned. And it kind of goes back to that thing that we noticed on the stream. It's two things. A lot of people don't like the nerdy stuff, and they're here for entertainment, not necessarily instruction. And that's fine. I'm going to find another way to present those. Yeah, it kind of is. There's I feel very positively maladjusted with my intellectualism. There, even in intellectual circles, and I've gotten this from gifted communities before too, even when I was in them as a young adult, like not even recently. There's some kind of, even within intellectual circles, there's some kind of resistance or critique or skepticism of the intellect, or there's something about it that when I think I'm doing something helpful, like I think the intellect is a great thing. It's Prometheus bringing fire to man, and I think I'm doing something helpful. And when I get the opposite reaction, I feel like Frankenstein's monster. And then I feel isolated. I feel maladjusted. I feel like what I thought was intended to help is actually harming someone, and it throws me like into like confusion and dissonance and identity crisis and all that other stuff. And so it's kind of that thing where people just want to tell stories. And because of my curiosity, I like to question stories. I like to make sense of them. In fact, I want to read a quote from this book because we're talking about mind now, but passion's the other side of it. With the exception of the relatively autonomous Pythagoreans, the Hellenic mind, that's the Greek mind we've been talking about, before Socrates, followed a definite, if at times ambiguous, direction away from the supernatural and toward the natural, from the divine to the mundane, from the mythical to the conceptual, from poetry and story to prose and analysis. This book right here, Richard Tarnas, The Passion of the Western Mind. It's just a good little like accessible survey of kind of intellectual history, from the Greeks through Hellenism, Christianity, the Renaissance, Enlightenment, etc. This is what I'm trying to do on this channel. This is a core value of this channel. If you're not down with this, if you have resistance to this, if you just want to tell stories and not move to this more critical, conceptual analysis type of sense making and truth making, this is not the channel for you. I'm sorry if I miscommunicated that, and I'm sorry if you were mistaken. I thought my intellectualism was such a given of my personality that anybody that was involved in anything I did, it's kind of like being gay. Or actually, you should read Bruno Snell's The Discovery of the Mind, because in The Birth of Tragedy, and the Apollonian Dionysian is very fine terms for kind of what we're talking about here. What Nietzsche's doing is actually reworking some intellectual currents that were present in like 5th century Athens when the Greek dramatists were writing, and he has an entire essay like devoted to Nietzsche's recapitulation of this observation that was already like being formed at the time that Nietzsche was studying. Hey, Provo King, just 1 minute, if that's you. Can you show your cam for just a second so I'll know you're not an impersonator? Okay. So that's one thing. That's the if you just want to tell stories, I'm the wrong person to do it around, because I try to work with truth and meaning, and I think people that just want to tell stories and not be harassed by questions or critique or analysis or anything like that, they just want to participate in meaning. And here on this channel, I'm trying to do truth and meaning. There's kind of this dialectic between the both that I think we need as whole people. So I take a more holistic approach. So I kind of want to underscore that and highlight that for people that are kind of getting irritated with my hyper intellectualism. It's not going away. You're the one that's going to have to go away, not me. I'm creating a space. I need to get my community needs met just as much as everybody else. And what's happening is everybody else is coming here and getting their needs met. But the opposite is happening to me. I'm feeling stigmatized. I'm feeling like I'm doing something that's bringing disruption and adversity to people instead of help. And partly that's because they're here for motives different than I'm here for. So I feel like if we clear up those core values and core motives, that might help to get this channel back on track. The other one is passion. I'm from South Louisiana. I'm Cajun. It's a very Dionysian culture. very passionate culture. We don't hold back our emotions. We don't even have a concept of it. There's a video that like from 20 years ago from that Trading Spouses movie or something, where they send this Christian lady to this new age home, and she comes back and she's like traumatized and shell shocked, and she goes on this rant about she's not a Christian. There's gargoyles and Buddhas and for like 10 minutes she's just screaming it. Well, she's from Louisiana. And that's about the emotional level that I grew up with. My mom was like that. Like, emotions are not stigmatized there. People are free to be as passionate as they want. And when my emotions are rising, for me, the intellect and the emotion are not separate. They are one phenomena. When I get passionate or emotionally excited about something, my ability to think and connect thoughts and like ask question, be curious, increases. So with the passion comes an increase in intellect. I need them both. And I want to show one thing here. We're going back to our chart. See these overexcitabilities, developmental potential, overexcitabilities. These are in green. Imaginational, intellectual, emotional, strong developmental. That is what drives me up to these higher levels of personality development that I'm trying to reach. Impact of developmental potential, especially overexcitabilities, amplifies this loosening. When my emotions are heightened, when my curiosity and my intellect is heightened, that is me on my hero's journey, on my path to some of those higher levels of personality development. That is positive maladjustment. If you're having a negative reaction to it, that is the maladjustment right here, right there. And if you're maladjusted to me, you have to leave, because I need to have my space where I can do that and help other people to do that. And there are certain cultures, and I would say even like the dominant Anglo-Saxon, American, Canadian, British, Anglosphere culture, where a certain amount of emotionality is reacted against. And that's where we get the emotion policing, the tone policing. And when people trigger strong emotions in someone, they feel like they violated some cultural norm, and then they move to suppress that person's emotion. Well, that is suppressing my ability to think and express and speak, because I need that passion to drive my intellectualism. And so there's been a pattern of like trying to get my emotional level to be less than it naturally rises to when it's excited, which is a positive thing and a good thing for my neurotype. And it my curiosity is not always welcome, and my intellectualism and my attempt to like find meaning in truth, or to pull out some truth and have it exist side by side with meaning. So I want to clarify those things. I want to reinforce my identity as a Western intellectual, and my dominant primary identity, in fact, as a gifted person, an autistic person, and my very passionate emotional nature. That's part of my Satanism, the passions. I have a strong sexual nature. All of that is tied with my mind, with my intellect, and I need to reclaim this panel for that. So for that reason, I'm going to take a little break here and kind of reorient, and we'll see what comes out of that. So that's really all I have today, and it's open panel if anybody wants it. Provo, I hope this is you. What's up? Christ is king. Is he still king? Brandon?
Jeff.
This is an adult panel, and it's an X-rated panel.
You seem stressed, Jeff. Just relax a little bit. Relax.
I knew it was you. That's
you seem stressed. You seem stressed.
I knew it was you. So remember, I said, "Can you show your picture so I'll know you're not an impersonator?" So far, he's chosen Barbie. It's the people he streams to his channel that he analyzes, so they're fresh in his brain, and he knows their little icons. Barbie, the Freak the other day, but without an icon. Now he's Provo. He does have Brandon is good at what he does. He has the best Looney Tune streams in the Panelverse, probably. This is an adult channel for adult topics. It's X-rated. And Brandon, you have already expressed that's not what you're looking for, right? So I don't know why you come here every day. You're welcome to hang out in the comments and participate, but I don't know why you come every day trying to get on the panel when it's not a panel for you. It's an adult panel. It's not a Looney Tunes panel. They all want the big gay hugs, Frank. They all do. The antlers brings all the boys. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it running for about 15 more minutes, and Frank and I are going to go finish our very excellent season of Survivor that we're involved in. Oh, I do have a tweet for you guys. I'll just read it. It says, in general, political beliefs flow from psychological imperatives and only subsequently acquire intellectual or rationalistic justifications. That's kind of what we've been talking about, how like that mythic pre-rational layer existed first, and the kind of the refining that into the abstract concepts, it comes later. It was a later process historically, and it's a later process developmentally. And we saw how like Alexander during his empire, how the kind of Greek rationalism left Greek and started to apply itself to some of the Eastern religions it encountered, and started to abstract concepts like dualism, astrology, monotheism, etc., from those existing bodies of mythic kind of output. And I've said before on here many times that a lot of what I hear on this panel seems like psychology turned inside out. When people are talking about conspiracy theories or Trump or being controlled or the snake people run the world, everything, I think it's that attempt to kind of add a truth layer onto the meaning layer that pre-exists. Yeah, it's going to be a short stream unless you want to come up and talk. Part of it is there just hasn't been a lot of activity lately. And the other part of it is I'm really motivated to go finish this Survivor season. And so like my monotropism is leading me to go do that as soon as possible. Frank. So we're still going to keep it going, or I'm going to try to keep it going. It may not be every day anymore until I have like the topic stuff. I can handle on my own. I can put those out whenever at my own pace. And the guest, if we do like more formal panels with guests and stuff, those don't have to be every day, and I can coordinate those on my own as well. It's more like the open panel daily, like little third place space I was trying to maintain. I'm doing it solo right now. I'm a one-man show. I feel like I have Atlas with the world on his shoulders. And so it's going to be as consistent as I can make it. But between that and me having to stabilize my own life, possibly getting a job, doing my own self-care, working on my own mental health, etc., it may not be as stable a thing as it has been up to now until I can get other collaborators that can help me to get it back to being something more stable. So I'm going to do the best I can, but just please be patient with my limitations as a human, as a single person. You don't like my fur porno cover that I put on it? I thought you would appreciate it. Here, let me I don't know if y'all can get a really good look at it. See, that is luxurious, real fake fur And hey freak. And it's very like luxurious to sit on. Like it has this plush feeling to it. I love my porno fur. Oh, speaking of intellectuals, if that's you, hang on, hang on, Steve, say something. All right,
It's me.
we have an imposter lately.
Oh, really?
What's up?
Not much, man.
We were
So-
thinking slash talking about you the other day.
Oh, nice. I appreciate it. Hopefully it was good.
Oh, well, yeah, it was.
Okay, cool.
It was an example of a model intellectual.
Oh, I am not a model intellectual, man.
Well, what you're as close as we get to it in these streets. What catch us up? What's going on with you?
Well, does anybody know what this month is?
Pride.
It's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
No, I didn't know it was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I thought it was Pride Month. Why are they trying to compete with Pride? They should have their own month.
I don't know. It's so Mother's Day is next month, which is Women's Mental Health Awareness, and then this month is Father's Day, and it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Pride just happens to fall in that because it's a celebration of Stonewall. And it's
what can we do for it? We should do something.
Well, I think the best thing to do is center conversations on healthy mental health practices. Personally, that's what I would do.
We try.
You know what? Learning what behaviors are maladaptive and which ones are healthy when we're talking about self-healing, internalizing voices.
Would that be like maladaptive in relation to that person's particular personal goals and vision?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it would have to be like individual specific, you know. But for example, one of those things that men like to do is be like, "Well, I'm just going to shut up and take this and just fucking get it done," or whatever. But it's like, no, dude, you're internalizing feelings that really should be out. You should be using those "I feel" statements, right? You should be like, "Well, I feel like I'm trapped," or "I feel like my partner isn't." And you should be talking to your partner about these things. But I'm just saying, if I was to talk to my partner, I'd be like, "Hey, I feel like, my head's all over the place this month. I don't know why, but, perhaps you could help me." Inviting your partner into the conversation can really help a lot if they have that same level of mental.
Which ideally they would if you've chosen a partner that like.
Yeah, but there's a lot of dudes that have not chosen well, and they're stuck in relationships that they absolutely fucking hate. You know what I mean?
Well, you talked about like not trying to hold the feelings down and expressing them. Who should they be telling this to? Like other men or specific groups?
People,
whoever will listen.
Specific people. And what I mean by that, sorry, my back is killing me today. What I mean by that is choosing mentally healthy people who will be supportive and not just dismissive. So I've got friends that I can talk to. Like I've got specific friends that I talk to specific things about.
Yeah.
There's specific things about death that I only talk to certain people about. There's certain things that I talk about social issues with, because I know that those people are going to reciprocate respect in that specific way.
So like having a support system that you can utilize when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, for me, it's tough because I run my men's mental health group, and there's certain things that I don't want to discuss with them. Versus I might have an issue where I'm like, yeah, I really need to talk about this. I've got a friend that will listen to me no matter what, and he will not baby me. For example, this is a really good example. Someone did something that was counter to my interests, which is, they know how I feel about men's mental health, and they were talking about the patriarchy and shit like that in a way that was not appreciated by me, but I kept myself quiet about it. I didn't go off on them. I was really proud of myself. but it really did upset me.
I thought you just said to release those feelings instead.
So I did, but there's an appropriate time and place.
So
That
not
was
necessarily
the appropriate time and place.
That's evoking them.
Not necessarily, but I'll get to that in a second. So what I did was, and this really fucked me up for a couple of days, and so I was just like, even my son was like, "Is there something wrong, Dad?" And I was like, "Yes, but it's not you. It's not your mom. It's not my wife. It's something external from the family. It's not work, and I need to go talk to somebody." So I dropped him off and I went and talked to my friend about it. And my friend, was like, "Do you think they did this on purpose?" And all of a sudden, that Hanlon's razor kind of bounced around my head. Which, if nobody's familiar with, Hanlon's razor is never attribute malice that which you can attribute to ignorance.
Yeah.
And so I had to think about it. It's like, I know this person, and they are not mean spirited. They're not anti-male. They're not anti-masculine. I mean, their partner is a trans man, and well, he's they're non-binary, excuse me, but he's aware of like the social the social constructs of what masculinity is. But anyways, point is that I was like, yeah, there's no fucking way that this person did this on purpose. And I'm holding a lot of this anger in, and I'm holding a lot of this frustration and betrayal in for no fucking reason other than I just didn't like how they were having a conversation.
And it's a story. It set off a story in your head.
Right. Well, it set off a wiser part of my brain that was able to say, why am I attributing malice to this person who I know doesn't want to hurt me? Because we've had tons of conversations about men's mental health. I'm going to be doing a panel with them at some point in time here in the near future. And it's just like, okay, that snapped me out of it really quick. And so it's important to have friends that can kind of call you on your bullshit, but in a very kind and loving way, and not challenge your masculinity because you're sitting there bawling your fucking eyes out. You know what I mean? They're just listening to you, and finding those healthy people that you can talk to is critically important. And what happened was after I got done having a conversation with him, a couple of days later, I was going to be seeing that other person, and I just pulled him aside, and I was like, I just explained to him the whole thing, and told them, I'm sorry about thinking even for a moment that you were like that, because I know that you're not. And luckily enough, I had a friend that I talked to about this, and he helped me realize that I know that you're not being mean. And we just had a really adult conversation about it, and we're still friends to this day. We love each other very much. We're still very close. And so it takes people around you who are healthy, and mentally healthy, I should say, that have a good emotional intelligence about them, where they know that the excuse isn't always, well, you just need to fucking man up, because that doesn't help. Right. And that kind of bugs me how people say that, because it's like, look, if you looked at the suicide rate, you would not fucking say that. Mm-hmm. Clearly men are not fucking doing okay because we're holding it all fucking in.
And I honestly really don't hear that a lot anymore. The man up thing.
Yeah, I hear it all the fucking time still.
What did they say about men that had you reacting that way?
Well, it was just the fact that I've worked really, I think I've worked hard about, disillusioning people of this idea that some kind of patriarchy exists. And in some ways it does, obviously.
Wait, hold on.
Otherwise, we don't have to.
Any more than the Jewish conspiracy exists. It seems like
no.
It's theory.
It's not a conspiracy, but it's not some planned out thing that we all.
Well, that's the idea of the patriarchy, is it's coordinated.
So I think that's the conspiracy. I think that has changed a lot, especially on the left in some places, where now it's more about, the patriarchy phrase is more of a placeholder for unhealthy social expectations of both men and women. Because if you were to give the left the argument that there is some imaginary patriarchy that does exist, right? What does that look like? Well, it looks like men withholding feelings and their frustration, and a lot of violence comes out of social expectations as well. But on top of that, we have very rigid social expectations for men. Like we see a man who's weak or is bawling all the time or bitches or
is emotional or excitable.
Well, I'm just saying, like, there's people out there that they're just really they're just negative fucking people, right? Everything is anybody else's issue. It's never their
Yeah, I do know.
responsibility.
I
They
do
didn't
know
play a
those
role in
people
it.
actually.
Right.
Yeah. Now
Right.
that
Well,
you mention
that's
it,
unhealthy
I
as
am aware.
fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also those guys that they just don't talk about their feelings, and you can see them struggling, right? But there's just this sense that men don't talk about our feelings. We just fucking take care of business.
You want to know why? I can answer that right now. I don't know if you've been watching the stream, but every time I have an emotion that rises above a certain level, the whole room tries to move in and shut it down. So if they can't even be around the emotion, why would I try to talk? Like, why?
Right.
How is that encouraging me to talk about it when they're reacting to me even having an emotion?
And absolutely, and that's where I believe that a lot of people on the left have shifted focus because the
Oh, and this
mental
is
health issue
not
has
even
come
just
up
the
so
left.
well. I know, but this is a reason why I think the left has changed their perspective on it quite a bit. Is I don't think they're necessarily attacking men as much as they used to. Like all men have this perspective. No, we fucking don't. But they're starting to realize that this imaginary patriarchy or whatever you want to call it does affect men just as much as it can affect women. Right? When you look at the web of interconnectivity between men and women and rigid social structures, you start to understand that all of these little fucking things are like compounding interest, only it's more like compounding damage to each of these individuals. And so what I'm seeing is a change in how people are perceiving what this patriarchy is, rather than it being like this conspiracy theory that all men are horrible, to everybody is affected at some level by this. And it's not malicious. It's just the way that it's always been. And we're not in the same place that we've always been. Right.
But okay, let me understand you. Are you saying that when people say the patriarchy, they're merely talking about societal expectation, and that's it? There's nothing more to it. So I can just
Unhealthy.
replace patriarchy with societal expectations for men, and it's the
Yes.
same concept.
Yes. Unhealthy
Wow.
social expectations.
What a
men.
dramatic way to say social expectations.
I know, right? Well, I mean, that's the left, man. They like their fucking big words. But for me, the way that I've gone about it is I surround myself with people I know have a vested interest in my happiness. If I have friends that I can't talk to, they're not my fucking friends anymore. I'll be civil. We might grab a beer sometimes, but these are people I'm not putting my heart and soul into because I can't trust them with my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. It's like I wouldn't be married to my wife if I couldn't sit here and talk to her about these things that are very difficult for me. If she kept fucking like blasting back at me or being dismissive, which is a really fucking harmful thing for men to have happen to them, is being dismissed, especially when we're talking about our feelings, because we don't let those out very much.
I don't know if you watched the Baby Reindeer show on Netflix, but we did a discussion on it, and I tried to talk about some personal sexual trauma that I had related to what happened in that movie, and it was crickets, and nobody let me talk. It was either dead silence, or it was everybody trying to scramble to talk about anything but.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a social expectation that men don't get hurt like that. Right. And
it was in the context of a discussion about a movie where like he went into great detail representing that experience. So it was a perfectly appropriate context for it, and still nothing. It was like taboo. I could tell it was a taboo topic by the effect it was having on the people.
Well, I don't talk about my sexual trauma at all, like around, especially online. I really don't. I talk
should
to
men be if they should be sharing their emotions, should they be sharing stuff like their baby reindeer stories too, or is that going to just isolate them and alienate them even more?
I don't know, man. I really don't know the answer to that, because that's such a highly individual perspective and experience that, I mean, we can't really force people to talk about things they don't want to talk about, and we can't force people to listen to things they don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
And so it's really like you almost have to go the extra mile and say, look, we're going to have a panel today about very uncomfortable fucking conversations here. And if you're not okay with that, don't fucking come. Don't be on the panel. Be in the comment section.
I'm going to make that my tagline.
You know what I mean? because we're supposed to be fucking adults, and we should be able to. Like, I'm 47 fucking years old. I don't have the time for fucking ignorance, incompetence, and insecurity. I really don't fucking have the time for it anymore. So I only want to have meaningful conversations with people that can hold their fucking balls and have that fucking space that they can talk about really difficult conversations. Like, I don't have time for petty fucking conversations anymore. I got maybe 30 years of life left. I don't want to spend that hanging out with fucking weak-willed people. I just don't want to do that.
God must have sent this Satanist an angel today. You are just what I needed right now. Or a demon in disguise.
Satanist. That's fucking awesome.
I'm traumatizing my troll here.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to say fuck a lot more. Fuck is my favorite word. I am known at work for my fuck.
Fuck.
So, I don't think this has ever been a children's show. So,
someone said the other day to me that they were not sure that your cursing was real and that it was like a put on for the show. I said, I don't know. I've known Steve for a while, and my impression is it's him like trying to not curse as much as he does, not him trying to figure out how he can work curse words in.
Yeah. No, you got to, if that person's listening, you got to remember, I was a mechanic for 30 years. I worked with the most manly men. We cussed, we swore. I'm also a biker, so I'm around that all the time. Fuck is like it's like a filler word almost. It's kind of what what's their name? Lib uses like a lot, right? That's kind of like fuck for
so
me.
does Chris too, apparently.
Oh,
I don't notice those filler words, but for people that it bothers, they tend to notice all that.
Yeah, I had to work really hard at not using a lot of those type of filler words when I started doing stuff online like this. But no, when I use fuck, it's for accentuation.
It's a real fuck.
Usually.
You're not faking it.
Yeah, it's a real fuck. It's not a fake fuck. I'm most definitely not a fake fuck. So, no, it's where were we? Oh yeah, why did God send a Satanist and atheist angel today?
Yeah,
Explain
somebody's looking out for me. Oh, a whole bunch of stuff's been going on the stream the past few weeks, and me and exactly the stuff you're talking about. My emotions are becoming a problem for people. My intellectual curiosity, which like rationality, I don't know if it's exclusively male possession, but it's definitely like something that I encounter in males a lot, like the ability to be reasonable and rational and want to like problem solve and analyze and pick things apart. That's irritating people. And so it's like it's just that theme of like males being dangerous or irritating or are different than the rest of humanity, and they have to be like watched or handled somehow to make sure that they don't get out of hand, like their emotions don't get too high, or their curiosity doesn't start driving everybody away with their nerdiness. And so that kind of stuff is happening.
I think if I could, I'd ask you if you want some advice.
Oh, I absolutely do.
Okay.
And I got accused of hiding behind my autism, so that's another one.
I don't know how you can do that.
I know
this is what I've noticed.
Stream with me being as transparent about my autism as I possibly can for years and years. So I don't know how that's hiding behind my autism.
Well, and it's part of your men's mental health. I think what might help you, and this is just my own observation and perspective from watching other panels and podcasts and such like that. Anytime you get more than 4 people in a panel or in a podcast, it's a clusterfuck. Because you start getting people talking over others, it's less. It's not very beneficial. It seems like it doesn't go anywhere, or it goes in circles, or it devolves into something that it wasn't meant to be. So maybe limiting your participants to 4 people on screen at any time might help you with that. Because if you've got 2 people that are willing to listen, right, and 1 person that's being a little bit loud, now you've got 3 people that can come to that person and be like, look, this is a conversation that we're having. If you're not comfortable with it, it's okay to leave. We're not keeping you here. but we need to allow people the opportunity to get their words out, versus 5 or 6 people and everybody's talking over everybody fucking else, and it just becomes a fucking nightmare to try and monitor and to what's the word called, moderate.
Right.
Yeah, it's impossible to moderate that many people with that many voices unless you've got a massive mute button, but even then you've got side conversations and you got weird shit going on. So like, if you want to have focused conversation, focus your panelists in such a way
I
that
am learning that and getting better about that. There's different types of conversations that are happening on here, and I'm learning how to arrange the panel for each type, because I still want that open panel kind of hangout type, but when we do have focused conversations, it does call for a little different structure.
Absolutely. When you're just like bullshitting in its open panel, hey, what do you guys want to talk about today? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can have, I still would probably limit it to 5, maybe 6 tops, because any more than that, man, it just starts getting loud. But when Buck was here, it would have been beneficial to have just 4 people on screen, and then you can filter through the questions and the comments much easier.
I think you can look forward to seeing more of that in the future.
I
streamlined and focused.
Yeah, when I started my channel, and I really need to start doing more shit with that. I've just been so fucking busy with the career change and school and stuff. But when I first started mine, I set out to like just pretty much do one-on-ones. But if I had a panel, like I did the Bridging the Gap series, the first video in that, and I need to do more of that. But I had 3 of my trans friends on, and we were asking them questions that we had from conservative Discord groups, and that was fucking awesome. It's probably one of my best videos. But I always made sure that I limit it to no more than 4 people on screen. That was something I set in my head very early on. Because I've been a part of panels that had 9 fucking people on it. It's just impossible.
We've had 10 before. 10's the limit for StreamYard, and we've had a full 10 every now and then.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the video you talked about so I can post the link. Is it on your Shade Tree channel?
Yeah.
More of Steve.
But that was a really interesting video, because one of the questions asked was, how do you feel about gun rights? And one of them was absolutely against it. Another one was, I don't care. And the other one, and I love this person for saying this, because they're a close friend of mine. They're non-binary. But they said, I fully believe if you go left far enough, you get your guns back. It was fucking hilarious. It was fucking hilarious. And consequently, gun sales for trans people went up like hundreds and hundreds of % during the Trump administration. So that was interesting. Didn't expect that one to happen. But how do you handle having more join requests than 4? Like how do you decide and cycle guests? A question for Steve, obviously. Okay. So usually I have it planned out that I'm only going to have 4 very specific guests that have 4 very distinct perspectives, because I want a diversity of perspectives. If you have a panel that just agrees on everything, it's not really a panel. It's more like a get together. Hey, you're so right, and I love that you're so right because you agree with me. It's not very fucking useful. It's not very beneficial. It doesn't do anything to further a conversation. So the way that I choose guests would be, can this person have an intellectual conversation without devolving into name calling, ad hominem attacks, and can they hold a space where they can have a difficult conversation and keep their cool? That's like the number one fucking thing that I look for. The second one is, how much do they know about the information that they're going to be talking about, right? Because I'm not going to ask a mechanical engineer questions about philosophy. It just would be silly. It's not his specialty. And how I don't really cycle through guests, because I already know who's going to be there. If I have an open panel ever, which I generally don't, I have very little interest in it. But if I was to have an open panel, I would probably set a timer for about 10 to 15 minutes per each person. Let them talk about what they wanted to talk about, and then we would spend a little bit of time covering our responses to that, and then I would move on to the next caller, so to speak. That's how I would handle it
So
personally.
you plan it ahead of time.
I'm not gonna just go in there willy nilly. That's just not me. I'm a planner. I'm not a
That's totally
schema, I'm a
me.
planner. Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm walking into each time.
Yeah. I just don't have any interest in having conversations like, online like this where everybody just agrees with you. It's like I have my friends for that. I don't need
Well, we can fight. We fought before.
know.
There's things we disagree about.
Yeah, absolutely. But and I've gotten a little bit riled up occasionally, but that's I'm a human being still at the end of the day. When you still get, riled up.
I mean, that I think, especially with men, it's fine to disagree and get riled up. I think that just happens between men. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing about online is that you can say some pretty fucking disgusting shit that you would never say to my face in life, because there's always this kind of undertone of understanding that if you cross a line, you're going to get punched in the fucking face.
But I don't know where those lines are. I have been punched in the face.
You should probably learn where those lines are, dude.
How do you know? Like I learned them when the fist hits the face. That must
body language, man.
This,
Autistic people should study body language like a motherfucker.
We it's not that I don't see body language. I see every bit of it. I'm not blind. I don't know what any of it means. I don't have the code book and if you no matter how many times you teach it to me, it's not going to stick in my brain, and it's different. Each region you go to, there's different codes. Like the language has different codes.
Well, I mean, if a guy's puffing up his chest and clenching his fist, he's probably going to punch you in the face.
Verbally communicate, so I don't have to use that channel.
I'm just saying, culturally and socially, we understand that, when we're with a bunch of other guys, we watch what we say, because there is that threat of, that undertone threat of violence usually.
What?
You might not, but I like 90% of the guys I know are like that.
Oh no, I didn't know about the threat of violence. I feel very safe around men. I feel more unsafe around women with the social and emotional and psychological violence than I do around men and physical violence.
Yeah, and everybody's going to be different, Jeff. Everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have their selective kind of area where they're going to feel comfortable, uncomfortable, or comfortable. It's just to each their own. Like I'm perfectly comfortable in a bar full of bikers, and less comfortable in a room of a bunch of people talking about their feelings. You know what I mean? I've gotten used to it over time, but like I'm more comfortable talking about you get what I'm saying. I mean, you got to, everybody has some place where they feel more comfortable. So it's just one of those, I like environments where I can watch and I can read body language and I can see kind of basically vibe check the room. I like being able to do that. I've gotten into the habit now. If I have to have a long conversation with someone, I don't do it over text. I don't do it over a phone call. We do it just like this, and we just have a conversation because I want to see your body language. I want to see.
How do you vibe check? What is it? Just is it like a sixth sense that you're using?
So I think the reason why a lot of people with ADHD do this, or even a history of traumatic experiences. So let's say that you've got a parent who is extremely volatile, right? You don't know which parent you're getting from 1 minute to the next or one day to the next. Mm-hmm. And so what you do is you become an astute observer of their body language so that you can read what mood they're in, so you know how to respond and how to behave.
Or you just ignore them. That's what I did. Like I can't figure her out. I'm just going to stop paying attention to her completely.
Well, there's clinical studies on this. And so it's really interesting to see how people deal with traumatic experiences, especially childhood traumatic experiences.
What the fuck's up? What the fuck is up on here today?
What is this person? See, that's the imposter that keeps.
Yeah, sounds like it. That didn't sound like Chuck. Chuck doesn't come in all loud and shit. Yeah. But what you ought to do is make people show their face on camera before you let them on the stream.
Well, I thought he's on here every day, so I just assumed like I got this. Yeah. This is Sanity Machine, and I wouldn't say he's great with the avatars, but he's good enough to fool me every now and then if I'm not being vigilant.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah. Where was I? Broke my concentration.
No.
Well, anyways, I think it's just wise. I think everybody should study body language and learn how to interpret body language, because to understand it, you have to have a baseline. And so what you do is you walk into a room and you watch people, and that's you gathering your baseline for those individuals.
What
So
are
if
you
see,
watching for?
the first thing I look for is feet.
Feet?
Feet.
What?
It's the only part of the human body that we didn't learn to lie with.
So, like, you walk into a room full of people, and the first thing you do is glance at their feet.
Yep.
What is it? What are they? What are their feet telling you?
So, depending upon how they have their feet positioned in relation to the people that they're talking to, is a tell for me. What do their shoes look like? Are they well maintained, or are they just like shit?
Oh.
You know, there's a thing that human beings do, and this is pretty much multicultural. Like you can study this across every culture in the world. But when someone is interested in what you're saying, but they don't have the time to deal with it right now, one foot will be pointing towards you and one foot will be pointing towards the nearest exit. And we do this subconsciously. We're not even aware that it's happening. And I've called people out on it enough times. I know it's real. I know it's a real physical trait that human beings do. I had a conversation with a woman that was in charge of the Boys and Girls Club where I live locally, and she was talking to me about struggling with being able to not just control the children, but to read them effectively, because a lot of the kids there had, mental issues, either ADHD or autism and stuff like this. And I said, well, have you thought about, well, first I was like, hey, do you got like 5 minutes in a private room and we could just talk? So I brought her in there, and at the very first, both of her feet were pointing towards me, and she was kind of mirroring my body language. And so I knew that we were in a reciprocal conversation, and she was listening and I was listening, and it was back and forth. And then her body shifted just slightly so that one foot was pointing me and one foot was pointing towards the door. And I could see that she was just a little bit, how would you put it? Her body language changed so that it was a little bit more, she was moving around a little bit more. And I was like, so for example, when we're talking about body language, I can see that you're interested in what I'm talking about, but you need to leave. And she had this reaction like, motherfucker, he read that absolutely perfect. She's like, yeah, I've got to get going because I've got to go home. I've got dinner. I've got to get ready, and my husband's coming home and stuff like that. And so it was, and I've done that numerous times, like so many fucking times. Females have a tendency to, the clutching the pearls kind of thing. It's what they've gotten into the habit of, as far as like evolutionary psychology, is what they're doing is they're protecting their neck. The suprasternal notch right there is they'll oftentimes touch themselves here or around their chest or around their throat when they start to get nervous, stuff like that. But it's incredibly helpful. It's incredibly helpful.
Fear of being choked or something?
Well, I mean, you're out in the middle of the wild, and a bear comes up to you. What are they going to do? It's going to fucking go for your throat first and foremost. Every animal, every predator goes for the throat almost always.
I didn't even know that. So if you counter bear, you should protect your neck.
Well, I don't think it's going to fucking help you, but that's the natural response that we have. Even in Africa, they don't have a lot of massive animals like bears and shit, but they've got tigers or lions. They've got other large cats that could easily throat you. So it's most evolutionary psychologists believe that is the reason and the purpose for that behavior. But there's other things too, like understanding the difference between a self hug or being closed off, because a lot of people are told like folding the arms is being closed off. Not at all.
It's not at all comfortable for me to like sit this way.
So it can be comfort. Maybe they're cold. Maybe that's their natural position. Maybe they are closed off. There's other things that you can do, but you have to build a baseline of each individual when you're talking to them.
So the body language for each person can be slightly different. There's not like a universal code book for body language.
Correct. Because, there are cultures that do things differently. Like, what's a good example? Americans have a habit of putting their hands in their pockets unless they're being if you're in a confrontational environment, most Americans will not put their hands in their pockets. But some in like Britain and some other countries in Europe, they have a habit of putting their hands in their pockets, but they'll leave their thumbs out too. So it's just
like if they're in a confrontation. their
Well,
hands.
if they're if they're in a conflict with another person, not necessarily physical, they have a tendency to do something different than what Americans will do. Americans will generally keep their hands out of their pocket, or they may, like some guys, they'll put their thumbs through their belt loops. There's just like minor things. I'm trying to think of anything else. I can't
Did
think
you
of
get
anything
this
else
from
off
a
the top of my head.
book or videos?
So
or
I read
something?
I've read a couple of books and I've watched a lot of seminars on it. My favorite by far is a book called, it's a book by a former FBI interrogator. His name is Joe Navarro,
I
and
think I've
his
heard of
book
him.
is called What Every Body is Saying. And for him, he was a Cuban immigrant, didn't speak a lick of fucking English, and then immediately got pushed into the school system. And so he had to watch his teachers. And he explains his history much better than I ever could right now. But he had to watch his teachers because they would get frustrated, and he would learn what they were trying to get him to do. Body language reading, absolutely, yeah. Body language is subjective. Like everybody's going to have a different perspective depending upon their own upbringing.
But
our
there's something about
baseline-
it that is it does accurately reflect reality in some cases. So there's an objective component to it as well in some
Yeah,
cases
so
because it works.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of really good examples out there. There's people that break down body language during police interrogations, and this is something that Joe Navarro did as for a fucking living, right? And there was a video of a woman who was bouncing her leg on her knee. So, like, she had her legs crossed and she was bouncing her knee. She was answering questions the same every time. She was very confident. And then they asked her one question and the leg stopped bouncing. And then they asked her another question and the leg started bouncing. So that they knew that that was a part of that conversation, that they needed to go down that road a little bit further with her on that question. So it's not necessarily what does this mean? It's more like, what's the baseline? What did they do differently? Because the thing is you can't tell if a person is lying from their body language. It's fucking impossible. The only thing that you can do is tell whether that person is comfortable or uncomfortable, and that's it. That is it. So anybody that tells you that they can teach you how to tell if someone's lying from their body language, they don't know what they're fucking talking about.
So that's basically what people use body language for is like you said, when you have to read your erratic parent, you're just trying to see if they're uncomfortable, like what state are they in?
Right.
What can I expect from them? Am I going to have to worry about myself or can I relax?
Right. It's like if you watch your parent who you don't know what you're getting today, if you watch them walking around the house, you can tell the difference between the two types of walk that they might have. Like if they're aggravated, they might be stomping their feet versus if they're in a good mood, they might be light-footed.
I never had to work. Like there were never consequences for having a parent. Like my mom was all over the place, but you could ignore it. There were no consequences for whatever mood she was in. So I didn't have to bother learning her patterns.
Yeah. And some people
that had
don't
a
get
parent that did. Like if your dad was in a distressed state, that could have a consequence for you if you said or did the wrong thing. Then I could see developing that need for. So part of it, I think, is socialization. Like depending on how you were socialized, you may be incentivized to pay attention to body language more than other people.
Yeah, so my wife reads body language incredibly fucking well. I mean, she picks up on things that I don't pick up on. And I've been a student of body language for 10 years.
Do you think women do it better?
I think they have a possibility of doing it better. It just kind of depends on their upbringing and their socialization too. But, for me, it was, my father was a very, I didn't know if I was going to get yelled at or ignored. My father wasn't a very emotionally conscious person with us children. And so it was really hard to tell what was going to piss my dad off and what wasn't. And so it was almost like walking on eggshells with my father. And there's a lot of reasons why he was like that. He suffered a lot of health issues. Like he contracted when he was very, very young, about his 20s, like right after, I think my mom was pregnant with she was either pregnant with me or my sister, who's 4 years older than I am. But my father contracted herpes encephalitis B, which is the mortality rate at the time was 98%. 99%. And if you actually lived, you'd be a fucking vegetable. It did not have a good mortality rate. Well, the story goes, my father was the first person in the United States to receive a drug treatment called ARA-C, ARA-C. And what this medication was, it was an experimental medication in California, and it was based off of coral. Really fucking interesting. Yeah, coral.
Coral, you
coral
said,
reef
like
coral.
the thing that grows in the ocean?
Yeah.
Coral? Oh, okay.
And they were exploring this, and they had done a brain biopsy on my father, and he was in a coma. Like he was in a coma the whole time.
Oh.
And they were just like, it was like really in and out. They didn't know if he was going to make it or not. And you know, my dad's doctor came, talked to my mom, and he was like, look, I know of this really obscure doctor who's doing this research, and he's got a medication that he believes might help your husband. I want to fly him out with a medication and see if that will help him. Because I mean, at that point, it's like it's either a go or a no go. Either he's going to die or he's not, right? So there's not really much to lose. So she's like, "Fucking do it." That guy was there the next day, took a flight out that night, flew to Utah, where my family was, and administered the drug. And within 24 hours, my father was awake.
Wow.
And he was perfectly fine. No more fever, no more anything. The interesting thing about it is when he woke up, he thought he was 14.
Was it temporary?
So no, he never regained his memories from before. Like he lost all of the memories between 14 and the time he married my mom. Like he still doesn't have any memories of that.
So he only has the first 14 of his life?
And the remaining years of his life after he woke up. Yeah. So he's missing like 6-7 years, somewhere around there.
Wow.
He had to learn how to, the thing he remembers, the first thing he really truly like remembered. And it was funny because, he's 14 years old in his head, and he sees this my mom was a hottie back in the day, and she actually got approached by Playboy a couple of times and turned him down. But apparently my mom was quite the hottie back in the day. And he looks over at her and he looks at the doctor. He's like, "Who's that?" And the doctor was like, "That's your wife." And he's looking at her. He's like, "Holy shit, I married a hottie." Right. And yeah, it was just really funny. He had to relearn how to drive. He had to relearn how to play the guitar because he was an avid guitarist and played in a couple bands when he was younger. And basically had to relearn everything. And then
was he able to pick it up faster than before? Like,
yeah, he picked it up pretty quick. He was actually in a couple of newspapers. But yeah, he was able to pick it up. And then on top of that, finding out that you're a father too. All of that combined together was a very brutal reality for him to wake up to at 14. But yeah, so there was some issues there. He had some dead parts of his brain that affected his behavior. And so he was very volatile for much of my life. I still love my father. He's a great man, and he taught me a lot of amazing things. He taught me how to play baseball. He taught me my work ethic. He taught me martial arts. I started teaching martial arts at a very young age. Like he's taught me all of the life skills that I need to have as a man and as a human being. And he was never like, "You should shut up about your feelings." He was never like that. It was just he was a very disciplinarian in his nature as a parent, and was very explosive with his anger. The only time my father actually ever hit me though is when I got caught smoking and he punched me in the forehead very lightly. He was very upset about that one. But my father was not physically abusive. He wasn't verbally abusive. He didn't call me names or call me stupid or anything like that. But he wasn't exactly emotionally like healthy either. Yeah.
so it was just the like intensity of his yelling or his anger or whatever that was.
Yeah. Right. And so I didn't know which dad I was getting that day. And I avoided my father quite a bit. I absolutely, how would you put this? I would get incredibly anxious anytime I had to do something with my father alone.
Oh.
just because it would just be me and him, like I didn't have my mom there to protect me or anything like that. So it was scary for me a lot. And so what I had to do is I had to learn how to read his body language. What is my father's mood today? How is he feeling today? Should I stay in my room today, or is it okay to approach my dad about playing some baseball? So, you know, and it's not, I don't want it to sound like I'm making my father out to be this horrible human being. He had a set of circumstances that he had no control over that ended up affecting me as well. So it was just one of those things, you know. We have a perfectly, you know, reasonable and loving relationship now, and I love my father to death still. But you know, I didn't tell my dad I loved him and meant it until I was in my 20s, you know. So yeah, everybody goes through these different things, but I think one thing that we can say is that the ability to read body language well definitely correlates with traumatic childhood experiences. And there's quite a number of studies on that.
Wow. So that I don't know what to say. Yeah, I'll take your word for it. It matches my experience. I never had to learn it. So that might be why I'm good at today. Combined with the autism. Like even with the autism, I never had a chance to even have to even try to put it into action. So that just caused it to develop even less than it might otherwise would have.
What is this?
I'm not a visual person. As long as people can use words, that's all I need. I can ask, "How are you mad? How are you feeling? What mood are you in?" I could use my words to do all of that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at one of these comments, and it's Daniel. He's like, "Steve pal, how sad are you? Seriously, you talk
different Steven. That's the guy that keeps trying to come.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I was like,
his name is actually with a PH to distinguish from.
Oh, okay. I was just like, that's weird because I've never gotten answered over a gay guy blocking me because a gay guy hasn't blocked me. I was just that was weird. And I don't know if I have a lisp or not. That's interesting, but I do have dentures.
It's this other Steven that's been trolling the panel for a while.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, but anyways, I'm just kind of peeking through the comments to see if there's this Daniel guy is fucking riot, dude. I've done more than just read a few books and stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. It's a lot of work to go into learning how to read body language effectively.
And like you said, if you've never had to do it, then why would anyone put that work into it without the incentive to do it?
Yeah, I mean, what's the benefit? Yeah, there isn't one. You know, unless you are in a relationship where you have to do those things, and then it's incredibly beneficial because it's necessary.
Yeah, like people that can do it, like do it well, and they get the benefit from being able to do it for sure.
Yeah, there was during the Johnny Depp trial, I was asked to be a part of the panel for the National Association for. What was it?
Is that the ones that they used to show on YouTube Live that would watch the trial?
Yeah, so I was on a panel with a couple of the leaders of the National Association for Men, along with a couple of other people. Really yeah, there was a couple of lawyers.
Yeah, I used to watch them.
Yeah. I had the mechanic cam, and so I would set my phone up with a camera facing me as I'm working on a car. Apparently, that was incredibly popular, and people tuned in for that. But I came in because I had a perspective of body language. I'm well read enough that I can keep up with a lot of the legal lingo, and I understand the law because I studied a lot of like civil law, civil liberties, and stuff like that. I am by no means a polymath. I just read on a broad range of topics, and so I've got a lot of knowledge in different places. Yeah. But so I was asked to be a part of that panel for my experience with body language. And I went in later and watched a couple of other videos of other body language experts and watched them just tear Amber Heard apart. And I'm like, yep, that's pretty much the same thing I saw. So it was really interesting. But it's really fascinating to do that stuff. But that was
body language currently rise to like standard of evidentiary standards in court or something?
No.
Okay, good. That would
No.
make me nervous.
No, it absolutely does not. For some people, that's the argument why you shouldn't use it. But honestly, and I realize this is like a biased opinion, but most body language professionals and educators agree that anywhere between 60 and 80% of your conversation that you have with people is done non-verbally, so body language. And when you're thinking about that and you're negotiating for a price on a car, or you're talking to a chick at a bar and wanting to go home with them, or whatever that thing is that you're trying to negotiate with people, do you really want to miss 80% of that fucking conversation? I don't know about you, but I don't. I want as much information as I possibly can. So if I'm talking to a guy about a price on a car, I'm watching his body language. It's as simple as that. And there's been times where I didn't like the guy's body language and I fucking bounced. I didn't buy the fucking car. So there's a lot of different uses for it, but I would never use it as some kind of concrete evidentiary process to try and convict
But
someone.
you're right. It is an additional data stream to factor. It's information that can be useful. And
yeah,
now that I know it's out there, I feel blind with that. I need somebody like you, like a seeing eye human that can translate.
I'll just wear a vest that says service friend.
Yeah, you do. I could take you to the grocery store on a little leash. We get you a vest.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I'm going to come up with that data stream on my own. I would need a person that can interpret to feed it to me like that. But now that I know it's there, I am missing a percentage of the full data.
It's more than you should feel comfortable missing, as far as I'm concerned.
I suddenly do. I do feel not.
So what I did is I read the book. I read that specific book, what everybody is saying, because I think that's still one of the best books I've read on the topic. And what I would do is I downloaded the Audible book, and I bought the physical book. And what I would do is I would read a certain section of it, and I would just practice that. I wouldn't practice anything else in the book. I would just practice that specific chapter.
Tell me what it's called again.
What every body is saying.
All right. An ex-FBI agent's guide to speed reading people. I'm going to bookmark it.
Yeah, it's one of the most phenomenal books out there. I'm dead fucking serious. Next would be How to Have Impossible Conversations by Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay. Those two books right there at the top of my fucking list when I recommend books.
Oh, yeah. I haven't read the book, but I follow both of them, their work.
Yeah.
And he,
that book
does that, what is it, street epistemology?
Right. So that came from his first book. God, what was the name of that first book? I read that one, God, years and years ago, but it was something like a manual for atheists or something like that. But it was one of his first ones. And that book, and combined with How to Have Impossible Conversations, brought about the street epistemology movement. And there's one guy, see if I can remember his name off the top of my head, but he does street epistemology dude's got hundreds of videos, and you're watching him navigate these conversations. You're like, holy fucking shit, this guy's fucking good. Like, he's really, really good. There's so many times where body language cues have helped me. Here's a perfect example: work. Because I work with some very, very intelligent people doing some really amazing work in the aerospace division. And you can read their body language and you can see what kind of worker they are. You can see when they're talking about things that are, complex, like theories and stuff like that. You can watch their body language, and depending upon their body language, you can see how confident they are in what they're talking about. So you can ask better questions, or I would say better in-depth questions, more specific questions about something, and really see how much they actually really know about that thing. And if they answer, I'm fairly confident, but I'm not 100% confident, then I know that I need to investigate this a little bit further. And dude, it's literally fucking helpful in every single aspect of my fucking life. I'm so glad that I learned how to read body language, at least to the degree that I do. I could be way better, but I don't spend that much time on it. But yeah, I think
This
you would
must
gain.
be how illiterate people feel.
Nah, dude.
I do.
I just have
feel
something.
so dumb right now.
Don't feel dumb, dude. Don't feel dumb. It's like that's such a random ass fucking subject to approach. Like, not everybody's gonna fucking think about that. It's just a book that I thought would be interesting, and you know, I want to read a book on mentalism, but they're really hard to find good ones on that. But
You believe in
mentalism
it?
is fucking insane. This is like people that can talk to you for like 5 minutes and then all of a sudden know where you're from, know your family's names and shit. Hold on for a sec.
Oh, I got a pee too. Maybe we could do an intermission. Oh,
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you need to go pee, go pee.
you think you can talk for 30 seconds or so? And I'll
Sure.
be right back.
I mean, I've been talking most of the fucking time, dude.
That's true. I'm going to hand you over to Steve for another minute, and I'll be right back.
Let's see if we have any questions in the fucking comments and see if anybody. Let's see here. My dog stepped on a bee. those fucking videos are so funny. Oh my god. Yeah. Let's see. Drinking, pass me off. So Bogosian and Lindsay. So that's an interesting thing. How do I make my beard get that majestic and broom-like? That's a good question. So I have a really curly beard, so I actually do straighten it a little bit, but I use both wax and an oil. Makes it nice and shiny and pretty. I only do that like once a week. I'll take a shower, every day, but I only deal with the beard once or twice a week. So Bogosian and Lindsay are interesting. I like Peter more than I like Lindsay. Lindsay seems to be somewhat of a grifter when it comes to a lot of the woke kind of stuff. And I mean, he's gone into fucking detail and he's done amazing amounts of research about, how all of this has come about. And it's incredibly insightful. And I still do listen to him. And Bogosian, the only issue that I have with him is I don't think that he understands the importance or the role of importance that religion can play in people's lives.
Oh my God, we were talking about
it
that.
too much.
We've been talking about that over here. Dobez and I talked about that the other day.
Yeah, and while I'm an atheist, and I don't like people using religion as a cudgel, especially a political cudgel. I despise that.
I don't like them using wokeness as a political cudgel either.
Yeah,
any kind of
ideology. But more specifically, I'm talking about Bogosian. But he seems to be under the delusion that there is no benefit from religion or faith, and I don't subscribe to that. I think there's a lot of benefits, and I stand up for people
meaning in their life.
Well, yeah, and sometimes that meaning is in their faith, but for me, it's in people. But I think he dismisses more than he should, and I might be really, really overstating that, but
there are atheists that do that though.
There are, yeah. But I've been on record as defending people's faith and defending their right to have the beliefs that they want, or having, following a faith that they feel like they should follow. It's their fucking right.
Some atheists see atheism as an advancement over religion, and other atheists see it just as an alternative, like to religion.
I think it's a state of being where you don't believe in things that you can't prove with evidence. There was I can't remember who it was, but it was Bogosian actually. He said, even if God came down to earth and spoke to me right in front of my face, I still would not believe in him because there's so many things I have to rule out. One, am I somehow imagining this, right? So I need to be able to test it. Is this person real that I'm seeing, or am I just fucking delusional and insane? That's a reasonable fucking thing to think, right? Right. How are some of the ways that this person could prove that they are God or Christ or whoever it is that is visiting you at that moment. And how likely is it that they're there? There's a lot of things, but the main point is I don't believe in things I can't prove factually with evidence. So when I hear a bump in the night, I don't think, oh, ghosts. You know what I mean? I'm going to think someone's in my fucking house. So I'm not afraid of the dark because there's nothing there. It's just fucking dark. You know what I mean? So I also don't attribute things to other events that I can't prove. Some people are like, oh, it's a miracle. Is it really a miracle, or did you just not have all the information at hand to be able to understand the situation? So there's I don't want to attack people's faith. That's not what I'm doing, but it does bother me when people attribute things that could be explained in other ways.
Well, that's because they're mixing up the two types of thinking, the mythological and the logical.
Right.
Faith, religion, and all that is fine. It serves a purpose, but we have better ways of like describing the physical world and reality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we have one type of thinking for that, but then we still have this other type of thinking that gives us meaning and provides us the stories that hold our internal consistency together and each other together, etc. And that can come from religion.
Yeah.
So it's like keeping each one bounded in its proper domain, and I think that's where the confusion comes in.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, you could take the scripture, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and what is God unto God. It's a really good phrase. I think more.
That reminds me, I did create a Ko-Fi account. The link is in the little banner thing. If anybody wants to suddenly start supporting the channel, we have a way to do it now.
Oh, there you go.
So render, please.
Yeah.
Render.
Don't give things to God that he didn't do. You know what I mean? Like if someone stops and progress without any tradition is chaos. It can be. It certainly can be. If someone stops and helps you with a tire, they're not necessarily a fucking angel. They're just a person that thought it was the right thing to fucking do. So amazing shit happens every day, and I don't think we need to attribute it to some, imaginary sky daddy, that only cares about us.
Each one of us, individually, personally. Yeah. That's a lot of people to personally care about.
Well, I mean, there was, battles that would be like, well, if God's on our side, then we'll win. It really didn't have anything to do with that. It had to deal with your preparation, your supply, your troop movement, a lot of other different stuff. It had very little to do with God.
I don't know if religion was invented, Sean, so much as that it emerged. It's just a natural expression of us as humans.
I think Sean's right in some ways. Yeah.
Like I don't think people sat like there was no religion, and then people sat down and said, let's invent this thing called religion,
right?
Because we have death. I think it was more emergent over time, like as the primitive humans lived in a very different world than we do.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, it was deep in what today we would call a religious way of thinking and experiencing the world.
Well, one of the most classic, I believe, emergent properties of human beings in their evolution was we learned that we wanted to understand the world around us. We wanted explanations for why things happen.
Yeah.
And I think, the easiest thing to go to is someone else is controlling it. It's out of my control. And death is definitely one of those topics where, religion could have very well been invented to deal with that question. And so I don't want to dismiss his.
I think it's the word invented I'm caught up on.
Invented, it can be either by purpose or by utility, doesn't have to be intentional.
I think, man, like humans are religious by nature. I don't think it's invented. I think we come into the world with it, and it gets expressed as we interact with our world. I don't think like humans were non-religious and then suddenly something called religion was invented and then they became religious. I think humans were religious by nature even before they became human, or as they were becoming humans. I think it's a very primal part of us. I don't think it was something that I don't think it's an like a later advancement of civilization. I think it was there from the start. The religious way of thinking and experiencing the world. I don't think there was an alternative to that until empiricism and reason developed in Greece in the 6th, 5th, 4th centuries, etc. I think before that there was only the religious way of experiencing the world and explaining the world.
Yeah. Well, I think it might have started there, but I think it really kicked in during the Enlightenment. But
no, it definitely. The Enlightenment was a continuation of that. It was like the next iteration, or not the next, because there were other iterations before the Enlightenment. But that was like the major continuation of that tradition for the modern world.
That's basically what I said. But I don't know if it was. I don't know if I could say whether it was there from beginning and very primal. If it was as primal as that, I think there would be far less atheists. So I think it's something that you can rationalize yourself out of once you start to.
Yeah, because of reason, because of rationalism, you can rationalize you out of it. That was a very specific historical development that post dated or succeeded religion. And so once that historical development made it accessible to the rest of us, then we could rationalize our way out of it. But before that, man had no way of doing that.
Well, did he care?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like the impulses were there in some people, some individuals. Again, in Greece, in the Mediterranean, in that area was where this was all happening. And so some individuals were kind of able to take those little seeds that were implicit in the religious view and work them into the rational view. But it was a very specific historical process, and it was carried about by many different individuals, and like culminated in Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, etc., and then got transmitted to the rest of the world. But until that process happened, there was no other way to make sense of the world other than religion.
Yeah. I see people don't know how to listen, so that's interesting. So it's nothing. I get a kick out of fucking comments sometimes. I do read the comments, and I think they're
let me highlight
them.
Which one?
No, it's all good.
Daniel Price, this one right here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I fucking said, Daniel.
I'm good. I know my
Jesus
audience.
Christ. It's all right. It's all right. Trolls are fine. They're a natural part of the social order, I guess. Now,
and he's really good. He's really good at what he does, I have to say. Yeah, exactly. Meaning this right here, because they want to think there was some higher order of meaning. It gives meaning to our existence, and I think that it gave meaning to our existence for centuries and millennia before rationality came along. So it was the original way of providing meaning to humans. Or the way humans provided meaning to themselves.
Yeah, and a system of social expectations as well.
Whoa! I hope this is a joke, Daniel. What did you have in your coffee today?
Right, dude.
I'm gonna just take that as a joke and leave it up.
Yeah. Even if he's serious, I don't fucking care. But yeah, I think there's, I had a conversation about this on another podcast just recently, like just last week. And it was, the question is, why is there something rather than nothing? And my interlocutor believed that it's because God has always existed and the universe came from God's creation. And the problem is that we both meet at the same point, which is the Big Bang, right? We're both asking the same question. Why did the Big Bang happen? And the problem is he's tagging on another question on top of the already unanswerable question, because you still have to ask the question, how did God do it? Right. So on top of that, there's, well, where did God come from? Well, if he's always existed, but nothing, something can't come from nothing, explain this to me. And that was probably the biggest source of contention that we had on that topic. My opinion was, look, I don't know. Therefore, I'm not going to attribute it to something that I don't know even more. So I go
Yeah.
based off of what I believe or what I trust as the evidence, which is, the cosmic background radiation. I might not never know what caused the Big Bang. And I think part of every human being's growth is learning to accept that you might not ever know what happened here or there or wherever. Sometimes you're never going to know the answer, and we need to be more comfortable with not knowing answers.
Yes, and I'm fine with that. But I think people who aren't, they're a lot of people. Like for me, I'm comfortable with the unknown. But I think for a lot of humans, they're not, and their brain has to fill in a story to put something in that gap so that their meaning can stay intact.
Yeah. I mean, God knows why they do it. I just don't subscribe to it, man. I'm much happier being an atheist. I take accountability for my actions rather than either blaming it or excusing it on somebody else that doesn't even exist.
Has anyone ever talked to you about our Lord and Savior Satan yet?
Oh, bro, I live in Mormonville, dude. It fucking happens all the time. I almost had to have myself excommunicated on purpose, just so that people would leave me the fuck alone and stop coming to my house asking to talk about our Lord Jesus Christ. Just, I invited a couple of Mormon
they do
missionaries to
chores
my
for
home a
you
couple
too.
times.
They can do stuff
Yeah.
around the house if you don't.
Yeah, I have
If
no
your
interest in that.
masculinity can handle other men doing work for you.
That's my responsibility. But yeah, I have invited a couple of LDS missionaries into my home, and it didn't go very well. So, yeah, I wasn't rude or anything like that. I just pointed them towards some questions that are yet to be answered by the Mormon Church. So
they would come when I was in Vegas. They would stop by and
yeah,
ask if they.
There's a lot of
them. Always do it on like a Saturday morning when you're just getting up from the club, and I'd say sure because we had a little foyer, and that's where my little smoking area was, and I'm like sure we can talk, but I'm an atheist and I smoke. I'll let you know that right now, but if you don't mind hanging on the porch, we can talk, and then they'd light up a cigarette, and I would smoke and I would listen to them talk, and they would leave in no time.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of LDS missionaries in Las Vegas, probably disproportionately so, but yeah.
Well, Vegas is a Mormon town. The Mormons built that city.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, all the funding for it, the casinos and everything. There's huge Mormon presence in Vegas.
That's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
They help build it and fund it, and they rake the benefit from it, but they don't participate in it. The Mormons are not stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. The Mormon Church has been just bleeding members though, because the CES letter came out, and it just gets worse. The CES letter is a list of issues that believers have with the Mormon Church.
When did this come
doctrine issues. It's been out for a while. I think it came out in 2016 or somewhere around there. But if you follow John Dahlen, it's Dehlin on YouTube. He has conversations with former members and some of the reasons why they left, and it's interesting because there's some things like in the Book of Mormon they claim that there were the lost tribes were here, and that's right, there's Indians here, right? But in the Book of Mormon they're explaining horses and swords, neither of which ever existed on this continent ever. So there's a lot of holes in the problem. Not to mention like I think the first couple of lines or pages from the Book of Mormon is like straight jacked out of another book. I can't remember the name of it. I'm not that interested in it. I just watch it every once in a while. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with the Mormon doctrine.
And is Mormonism declining just because religion in general is declining, or this letter had like a specific extra impetus to cause people to leave Mormonism?
I think it's a little bit of both. Because we live in a day and age where knowledge is easily attainable. You know what I mean? We can do our own research. We can investigate things on our own. We don't have to rely on our elders or whatever you want to call it. Because that's one of the big things is like during the Middle Ages, the smartest fucking person in the entire town was the priest. He was the only one that could read. He was the only one that read, books on philosophies. And, he was the smartest motherfucker there. And so you listen to him. Well, we don't have that system anymore, right? We can all read. We can all do our own research. We can do a whole bunch of shit on our own. And we're not reliant on one group of people telling us what the truth is.
That's what I keep telling these fools. They feel lied to and betrayed and told false reality. Well, like, you can find all that on your own. You don't have to rely on other people to tell it to you.
Yeah. This fucking guy. Sorry. I'm just laughing. This is like fucking hilarious. But anyways, yeah. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think the most damaging thing is how inaccurate and how many contradictions there are in the Mormon or the Book of Mormon. I almost called it the Mormon Bible, but
like the internal consistency itself of not even its relation to reality.
Yeah, so many inconsistencies. Not to mention they lied about the founder quite a bit. There's a lot of historical inaccuracies on how the church was built and what happened inside of that, and how the Book of Mormon was interpreted from gold plates. And there's so much. We could spend 5 fucking hours talking about the
and everybody gets their own planet too, don't they?
It depends. So there's 3 heavens. There's the celestial, the terrestrial, and the telestial, I think. Or no, there's the terrestrial, celestial, and terrestrial. I can't remember. But there's 3 heavens. Well, if you follow the doctrine and you're a good follower, you eventually get up to the highest heaven, at which time you become a god yourself. And you can go and build your own planets and your own worlds and your own universes. It's kind of like an early form of multiverse theory, but it's weird. It's interesting. There's no way to disprove it because it's not provable. It's not testable. It's not falsifiable. So it's kind of irrelevant to me. But yeah.
But it
really
sure does hold a society together, an entire U.S. state, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can. Utah is now, I think, the Mormon demographic is actually less than the rest of the state. I think it's like 40% of the state. Yeah,
what?
It's only 40% of the state now.
Oh my God. When I was in Vegas and we'd go up there, it was like, it felt like 80% more, just Mormon everywhere. You could feel the Mormonism.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking everywhere. There's a church. There's more churches than 7-Elevens. So
what? I still want to visit Utah. I mean, I've been before, but like, I'm still looking at it as a possible area to relocate.
It's a nice place to live. We have good. Well, let me say, we have very good gun laws here.
It's a red state.
It's mostly a red state.
The best outdoors in the country, to me.
It definitely does. Like, it's one of the few states where you can go snow skiing in the morning and jet skiing in the evening.
How feminized is it? Are the men still comfortable being men?
I would say so, yeah. Depends on what parts you go to. If you go to the suburbs, yes. If you go to Salt Lake, maybe not. Salt Lake is more like a tiny version of Portland or Seattle.
Yeah. Oh God, that's what I was afraid of. But where you are, it's not too bad. Like, you're far enough.
No, I live way north of that. I'm like an hour away from Salt Lake.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Yeah. So Ogden area is much more Catholic, I would say. So that's not nearly as much LDS. Yeah. I'm around that area.
Where are the Satanists?
I would probably say they're probably bunched more around Salt Lake, but they're everywhere. I know a couple of Satanists. One of my good friends, John, is a Satanist.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's an astrophysicist at a university in Europe right now. He's a professor.
Based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
That's my people.
Yeah. For years, dude, he used to wear 2 rings. It was like a square. One ring had a square inlet of a onyx gem, and the other one was identical, but it didn't have anything in it. And it was kind of the representation of everything and nothing. It was really interesting. I still remember that to this day. Yeah. We had a lot of great conversations. He actually has one quote in that I literally wrote down in one of my journals, because I've got one of my journals has a bunch of like just quotes that I love. And his quote, I absolutely love this, is like, most people just go through life like they're just taking a shit between naps. I fucking love it, dude. I fucking love it.
Get that cross stitched.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I think I never run into problems with any Mormons here. They pretty much stick to themselves. They see me and all the
I didn't in
tattoos
Vegas
and,
either. Like,
yeah,
I
they just
can't
leave
tell
me
a
alone.
Mormon from an ordinary person. I don't. To me, they're just normal Americans. Like, I couldn't tell them from anybody else.
Yeah, I
They
mean
were nice. They
that's
were
America.
friendly. They carried on conversations. They did fun things with the group like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that the LDS Church is really well known for, is their activities and their closeness with their families. Very, very close with their families. But there is a lot of religious trauma here in Utah. A lot of religious trauma.
All right, I'm gonna bring Chris on to say hi.
Hey, never seen him without a hat.
I don't have any down here.
Are you feeling okay today to be on the panel, or
I just want to come say hello, and I guess from what I gathered from listening to the stream, I guess goodbye to everyone. So,
you hear you want to feature? We could do that.
How are you doing, man?
well, I don't know. I just heard for the first time that Jeff was planning on going completely solo and stuff. So
No, you didn't hear that for the first time. You've heard that before. I've said on the show before. We've talked before. So this is not the first time. But we can talk. We can talk after this if you want, off stream.
That's fine.
But this is definitely the first time. And then if like you've been saying things to other people besides me about me hiding behind autism and all kind of other stuff. So
I said
you're not even talking directly to me anymore.
What I said, to clarify, was that you were hiding your egotism and some.
I've openly admitted to my egotism on this stream over and over and over. How is that hiding?
Okay, well, you're using your autism as an excuse for being egotistical and an asshole sometimes.
In your opinion, and I don't know
the
what that's
opinions
about.
of most people.
If you want to talk after the stream, I'm willing to. Otherwise, we can just end it here and just.
I can bounce. I can go do other stuff. I'm pretty much.
No, this is not what I want on my stream, Chris. We're going to talk after the stream. This is not what I brought you on for. We're going to save this kind of conversation for off stream.
Yeah, I'm sad.
But if you think I'm egotistical and hiding behind my autism, whatever, then you shouldn't want to be around me. Like, you shouldn't want to be around a person that you think that about. Like, why would you want that in your life?
Mm-hmm. I have nothing to say on this topic, so
I don't.
I try to stay out of drama as much as I
I've had this
can.
channel for like over a year now. People can judge for themselves my ego, and to the extent that I'm hiding behind my autism, because I've been nothing but transparent about my autism, like to a painful degree here on this channel. I get very frustrated about the autism, and I'm constantly highlighting how it impacts me, the community, people, etc. So I don't know what this hiding behind the autism is. But if you're going to come at me for my autism, take yourself somewhere else and go find another group.
Yeah, that I hate to see friends fighting, man.
This has been happening for a while, and it's not.
Chris is a phenomenal panelist, though. He is a phenomenal fucking panelist.
He has his own channel. He does good content. I support him creating his own brand and doing his own thing, and I wish him the best. I think our collaboration has come to an end. And this has been going on for a while. It played out on the stream, some of it, and I just refer everybody to that. It started with Chris. It came from Chris. I was not aware of any of it till I became aware of it through Chris. I was fine on my end, and I thought we were all collaborating and on the same page about this project. Same with Lib. They had issues with me that I was not aware of, that they didn't express, and it just devolved from there. It was just communication breakdown.
Well, I still hate to hear it because it's always been fun talking to both of them. I've always enjoyed their company and their conversation. You know, it just sucks to see that, you know, that's going on, and yeah, that's just a real bummer. And I think, you know, two important things to note here is, one is, I learned this from a really great book. It's called The Four Agreements. It's basically,
yeah, I know that book.
Other people's opinion of you is none of your fucking business.
Right.
And people can have an opinion of you all they want, and it could be right, it could be wrong. But really, I mean, does that really matter?
Well, it only matters when I'm deciding who to collaborate with, and if you that's your opinion of me, then that's not someone that there's no reason for us to collaborate.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely your guys' choice.
You can have the opinion, and yes, it is none of my business. Yeah, be impeccable with you. What are they? Be impeccable with your word. Let me look them up. My boss gave us that book.
Yeah, always do your best.
Well, how hard is it to find a list of the agreements?
I don't know. That's fucking weird.
It's trying to sell the book, but it's not listing the actual agreements.
Yeah, so I can't remember all of them either. You know, Frank, if you don't like words, maybe listening to podcasts isn't for you, man.
Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. I like those.
Yeah. The optics are good. Fucking Frank, I love you, dude. You know, but I just wish this wasn't happening to you guys.
Well, then talk to Chris, because he's a grown man. This started with him. He's making choices as any other adult does, and this has been going on for a while. I've tried to talk to him about it. I've tried to help him. His self-care took a dive. His life took a dive. His psyche took a dive. I did everything I can to try to help it, and it all got directed at me. I somehow became the antagonist in his little psychodrama, and same with Lib. Chuck, is this really you?
Yeah, this is the real guy.
That's Chuck. You know, the other thing I think in that book, I think it came from that book, is people rarely do anything because of you. Usually it's something that is going on in their lives. So maybe there's something going on in Chris's life that is affecting him in a way that
but he's an adult and he needs to handle it. And I tried to be supportive, I got the blowback from whatever's going on in his life. So that's the signal for me that whatever's going on in his life, I'm not the person to.
Well, to be honest, Jeff, as soon as Chris said that, your voice elevated a few octaves.
As soon as he said what?
About the remark that was made, your voice went up.
What remark?
About the saying that you were using autism as a cover.
What does that mean when somebody's voice goes up? Is that part of body language, Steve?
Sorry. Well,
and I'm not trying to start no crap.
Vocal inflections can deal.
Vocal inflection. Yes.
Give me the shortcut of what y'all are trying to say. My voice went up, which means what, or therefore what? What are y'all?
You became incredibly defensive very quickly.
When people tell me I'm hiding behind my autism, and it's my primary collaborator for the last year, who I thought was on this channel and had full awareness of the autism. Yeah, I get very sensitive, defensive when people try to make my autism an issue.
Did you ask him why
he's not doing it in a way that's communicating anything useful? He's using it in a way to like communicate something indirectly about me. I don't know what he's trying to say.
I think maybe you guys need to have a good private conversation.
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
what I said. We can have it off stream. I don't want this to even be on the stream. Like, I don't even know what we're still talking about. I was trying to deal with this off stream. I didn't know what
No.
to expect when I brought him on, and he came on to try to have a conversation that I wanted to have in private off stream.
I get that. And I didn't come up here to start no ruckus. I was just trying to point out that once people start doing the vocal inflections, then the other person gets defensive and they start raising theirs, and it turns into a pissing contest. Was all I was trying to point out. I wasn't trying to make anything about the issue at all, Jeff.
Okay. What's the vocal stuff? Like, tell me that again.
Like,
It's just a signal that you're getting emotionally elevated.
yes, thank you.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Steve, early when I said my emotions reach a certain level and then my emotionality becomes the topic instead of whatever the emotion react to. Like, the conversation shifts to whatever I'm having a legitimate reaction to my reaction. That becomes the story instead of the event. And
No.
how is that support?
I wasn't
center me as the problem instead of the problem I'm trying to address.
I was just saying in the future, maybe look out for that so that
what am I supposed to do about when my emotional level, when my emotional reactions reach a certain level? That's what I opened the stream with. I'm a very passionate person. If you're going to say shit to me about my autism, this is a perfectly normal level of reaction. Are
yes,
y'all
it
saying
is.
I should have
100%.
a different reaction? I should like not have this level? What are you saying? What are you trying to communicate to me by talking to me about my emotional level? What are you trying to teach me?
Steve, please help me. I didn't come up here to start an argument. Are you understanding what I was saying, Steve?
People come at me for my
emotionality.
Yeah. This happens, and I'm trying to understand what the issue with my emotions are. Why are you shifting the conversation to what Chris said to how I'm reacting about, like, the level of emotional reaction I'm having to it? Why is that the emphasis of the conversation instead of the actual subject, which is what Chris said to me?
In order to bring more conversation about by lowering the temperature is what I meant.
So you're trying to have me calm my emotion down.
I don't know if that's what I would call it,
but exactly what I was talking about when I started the stream. That's becoming a problem. This is me, Chuck. This is my emotional level. This is an authentic reaction to being told I'm hiding behind my autism from somebody that was my closest friend and prime collaborator for the last year on a project to support people with autism. This is a normal reaction to hearing that shit from that kind of person to me. And you're saying the reaction itself is a problem, not what Chris said to me?
Let me apologize. Maybe I was out of line. I shouldn't have said anything. I do apologize.
I'm glad you did. I don't want you to not.
I live with autism.
I'm trying to understand what I'm supposed to take from this, though. Because all I'm hearing now is your emotions are the problem, not Chris.
No, I did not say you're.
I've been getting consistently every time I have an emotional reaction. People try to come and shut me down or make the issue about you're becoming too emotional instead of letting me address the problem. Who cares how emotional I am? Why is that an issue? Why is emotionality an issue? Steve came on the stream and started the stream with men should express their emotions more. Well, this is what fucking happens when a man gets emotional. It's not about, express it, help us understand it, tell us about your feeling. It's about, you realize how high your emotion level is? Why don't you bring the temperature down so we can have a normal conversation? Why can't we have a conversation with my emotion like it is? I can. Is there something that is it a barrier for the rest of you to have a conversation with somebody emotional?
No, I deal with it all the time with my son. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now here's the bad part. I assume, which makes an ass out of me. I assumed with your level of education and doing peer to peer and all this mental health work that you are able to see and apply some of what they point out. I did not mean to attack you. It was not an attack towards you.
No, I'm not taking it as an attack. I'm taking it as you're trying to communicate something about my emotions, and I'm not sure what that thing is or what I'm supposed to do with it. When I'm working with a client and they get emotional like I'm getting emotional now, I don't do anything differently. I continue to talk to them. I continue to where I don't stop the conversation and make a comment about how I don't let their like hijack the conversation to make it about their emotion level. I just take it as that's the normal part of who they are, and I continue on with what I was doing. That's why I don't understand other people who suddenly make the emotions the issue.
I think
It's a social cue. But go ahead, Steve. Help me, Steve. I'm trying not to piss him off by no
I'm
stretch.
creating a space where I can be as intellectually curious and passionately emotional as I want to be. So when you come into that space and start telling me like to notice my emotion level and consider toning it down or taking the temperature down, that is the opposite of what I'm trying to create the space to be. I want men to come on here and be able to be emotional and not have it be stigmatized. I'm trying to normalize emotion.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I don't think I could speak on any of this because I don't know the situation well enough.
It just happened right in front of you just now. Chuck came up here and told me how emotional I was being,
and that was not my intent.
The purpose for saying that. Were you saying it to make me less emotional? The other day when I was talking about my sexual assault, and Chris said, you're getting very emotional about this, very worked up about it. My emotions shot through the roof. The worst way to de-escalate somebody's emotion is to tell them they're getting emotional. That's going to guarantee an additional level of defensiveness.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And if my emotions are a problem for you, then just turn the channel. I don't understand coming and trying to get me to be different than I am. If my emotions are a problem, two things. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I want to do about it. I'm fine with my emotions. If you have a problem with them or anybody else, then that y'all are going to have to just go find someone that's less emotional, that meets your emotional expectations. Because this is
the only reason I said anything is in the past, you have said if I miss a cue or something, how about somebody pointing it out? Instead of just letting me run with my cue. So that's all I was trying to do. I wasn't taking sides. I wasn't picking on you. I wasn't picking on Chris because I like you.
It sounded like you were suggesting I turn the emotional level down so that the conversation could continue, that it was somehow impacting the conversation.
I didn't hear that from Chuck. That wasn't my perception.
Well, it's on the stream. You can rewind it. And
yeah. People can read that. I think when Chuck came in here, he was trying to point out where something happened, not attack you personally.
Exactly. I wasn't attacking anybody because I love the hell out of everybody.
He's attacking me. That's not what I think. I'm trying to understand why he was pointing out, like what he was trying to point out in the first place. That Chris said something, and I had an emotional reaction. That yes, that happened. I'm trying to understand what I'm supposed to like. What significant takeaway from that?
My thing was once you went to that emotional spot and got a little excited, therefore it would cause Chris to accelerate his emotional response.
Oh, okay. Well, so then that's another indication that Chris and I are not compatible. If my emotionality causes Chris to have like this counter defensive emotional reaction, then it's
correct. Because my son, I deal with this with my son. And I always stick my foot in my mouth before I realize what I've done because I know better, because I know how he reacts on a social level. And sometimes I forget and I stick my foot in my mouth and then I spend the whole day trying to correct the situation that I started.
Oh, I fucking feel that.
If that makes any sense to anybody. that
does
has
to me, man.
autism.
It does to me.
Okay.
But I think really quick though, Jeff, is that I think even though that you guys have this disagreement, I don't think that either one of you is a bad person. It might be an issue of compatibility, absolutely, but I don't think that either one of you are a bad person for having the opinions or the feelings that you have.
I'm not
in the situation.
making a moral judgment on Chris at all.
Yeah, because I love both of you guys. I love Chris, and I love you, and I love Chuck, and I love a lot of the people that come onto your panels. I love Live to Death. He's fucking hilarious. They're fucking hilarious and shit like that. But I do think that it does need to be addressed offline, like you said.
Yes.
As far as your feelings are concerned, Jeff, I think you have every right to feel emotional, however you want to put it, about someone talking about your autism in a way that does not vibe with you. You know what I mean? It's like
disrespectful, yes.
Dismissive and disrespectful in some ways. And I don't think his intent was to be disrespectful, but also at the same time, I think he needs to take accountability for that and deal with it the way that he can. But
if there's this emotional speed limit that I'm violating, or this intellectual speed limit, because the two things I'm getting this kind of pushback from are I ask too many questions and people just want to tell stories. They don't want me to sit there and like nitpick it apart, and the emotionality. So those two things are non-negotiable. If anybody has a problem with me asking questions or being emotional, they can get the fuck off my stream. And if they're on the stream making those, I'm going to start kicking people off that do that. This has got to be a space where asking questions is normalized, and trying to find truth is normalized, and emotionality is normalized. So those are the new rules. The next person that comments on my emotions or my curiosity is getting kicked off the panel. I don't know any other thing to do. I can't change it. If you have a problem with it, that leaves you responsible for coming up with a solution by taking yourself away from it. What's the point of telling me something about something I can't do anything about?
Well, I just came up for a suggestion about cues. I did not come up to attack your emotional or your because that's how you get to the truth, is by questions.
But what that Chris said something, and then I had a reaction.
The social cue, yes. And it had nothing to do with you personally or with Chris personally. I'm just talking about the dynamics of a conversation. And God darn, Jeff, the last thing I want to do is make you upset. Believe me, with all my heart.
Understand the message I'm supposed to be get about people telling me I'm too emotional.
Yeah, I don't understand
like being
why
too gay or too autistic or too Cajun or too satanic. It's the emotion I am. That like I can't make it be less than it is. This is the emotion that's hitting my body right now.
Well, it's like saying, well, you're being too much of a man right now, or you're being too much of a girl right now. It's like,
yeah, that kind of is the
that.
message. You know what? I think I'm going to end the stream. This is not.
Jeff, I'm truly sorry. I did not mean it to be taken that way.
It absolutely does feel like the shit men get when they try to be emotional.
I apologize 100%. That was not my intent.
From men and certain level of emotion. They don't want the whole range. They don't want all the emotions. They just want the emotions that they want from men, and at the level that they want from men. They don't want an authentic emotion at the quality it exists and the level it exists. They want to kind of like dictate how men show up emotionally. And I'm getting it from other men. This is what I'm saying. The last 3 or 4 times I've had my emotion policed and shut down, it was by other men, and it was often in the presence of a woman who was having a reaction to it. And they were white knighting for the woman. I suddenly my emotions became threatening, and they tried to shut me down so the women would feel more comfortable.
Well, that's a very curious fucking thing that we really need to kind of grow out of socially, is thinking that an emotional man is an unstable man, which is bullshit. And I've pointed this out on almost every single podcast.
I have my full rational faculty. All I'm doing is having an emotion. Why is that something?
Well, that's what I'm pointing out. That's what I'm pointing out, is it's not bad. It shouldn't be bad.
That's
the
not the
social restrictions
message
that
I've
have
been getting
existed
from
for
this
a long
this
time.
this YouTube community for months now. That's not the message I'm getting. That's the message I'm trying to send with this stream. I'm trying to establish a space where it is normal, but I'm not successfully doing that because it's still coming up as a topic of conversation.
That just means more work needs to be done on this.
The thing with Chris has been built up for months. You can go back and watch the streams. You can see how he shows up consistently over the year, and then you can see where he starts showing up later and later in a different state and condition than he did before. That's about where it starts. This is not one incident. This is a pattern. It's been showing up on the stream for a while. We've been having conversations about it in the Discord for a while, and I need to draw a boundary. I need to get my center back, and I need to pivot in the direction that I was going in from the beginning, that I thought Chris and Lib were collaborating with me on to get there. I didn't know that they had all this other stuff going on inside of their head about me. When I found that out, that was a sign for me to draw a healthy boundary and redirect.
Mhm.
I'm not here trying to make anybody miserable or anything. I'm here trying to do good and help people.
Yeah.
And I get really frustrated when the things that I think are helping are actually something that everybody is freaking out about. It's the Frankenstein monster feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the whole point of this is trying to remodel ourselves so that we understand that men are thinking, feeling human beings that have not just a right, but they are entitled to express those feelings, preferably in healthy ways. But the whole point is understanding that men have the same depth and range of emotions that everybody else does, and we need to start getting comfortable with people who are emotional, with men who are emotional, because we need to be able to deal with these. This is
How do we do
this is
that?
part this is part of the suicide problem, I think, is that we're not comfortable talking to men about their feelings, and we're not comfortable with hearing about them. We're not comfortable with seeing them, and that needs to fucking change. It really needs to fucking change.
How does it change? How do we change it? Because I desperately need that to change, but I can't control the reactions people have to male emotion.
Well, I told you earlier, I don't surround myself with people that I can't be emotional with.
That's kind of where I'm at with this conversation. I would have to basically isolate myself from probably 60 or 70% of this YouTube community if I did that.
Yeah. Well, then so be it.
Well, let me think about that.
Because what if you don't, what is the cost that comes from that? It's going to be a pretty fucking heavy cost.
Mental health.
It's going to be your mental health. So, and before I go, I just want to say that I love you, Jeff, and I love you, Chuck, and I love Chris, and I love Lib. But sometimes we have to understand that things aren't going to work out the way that they've been working out. And it's okay. Yeah. It's okay to say goodbye. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to check out. I'm going to go play video games for a while.
Okay. Sounds
what were you going to say? Real quick. What were you going to say before I left? I thought you were going to say something.
Oh no,
you, Jeff.
I was glad to have you today. And please,
it just so happened I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah,
yeah, I love you too, Frank.
You've actually been very helpful today, so thank you.
All right. Yeah, I would prefer to be more helpful than to be more detrimental. So, all right, everybody, have a good night.
Okay,
take care. All right, Steve. And once again, Jeff, I will apologize. It was nothing about you. It was nothing about
my emotion. It was when you say no. It confuses me because it was specifically about my reaction to what Chris said. You said it was defensive.
I was referring to conversations in general. When one person gets excited, the other person gets excited, and it just keeps building. Is what I was trying to point out. And I wasn't attacking you.
It doesn't happen that way with everybody. There are people I could get excitable around that it doesn't do anything to them. They just keep going with the conversation. So
okay. And I realized
Chris having a reaction to my emotion, then they're obviously not the people to be having the conversation with. I can be having a conversation with people who are not reacting to it.
Yeah, Chris should have never have made the statement from the beginning.
Well,
in public anyway.
You know what?
If he felt that way, he should have talked to you in private.
I took a chance with bringing him on. I didn't know he was going to come on to hash out like all the stuff that should be going on behind the scenes. So when I realized that, I tried to like move it behind.
And my intention was not to cause an argument or for you to get upset. That was the least of my intentions.
Well, I can pretty much tell you anytime you make my emotionality the issue and center it in any way, or like,
okay, I got you. I can respect that. I can respect that.
I like my emotions. My emotions are what let me do what I need to do. Like they're one of my strengths. And so if other people don't like my emotions or my intensity or my emotional level or whatever, I told you the first job I got fired from here in Seattle, they said I was too creative, passionate, and intense. They said, we're just not set up for that here. Okay, well, I'm trying to find the places that are set up for me to have the level of emotion that I naturally have. That's what I'm trying to do here. And so when people bring it up as an issue, I have a lot of cognitive dissonance because I thought I was establishing this as a space where that didn't have to be a fucking issue.
Gotcha.
And so if people are going to continue to attack me over my emotions, I'm either
you will not hear another word.
Community. I don't know how they can possibly be a part of a community where I'm trying to normalize male emotion and they're doing the opposite by stigmatizing and criticizing it every time. And I have to look at my ability to continue to be a part of this community if this is the norm for this community.
I will definitely respect that in the future.
I'm going to wrap it up today. And,
okay. And like I said, I did not mean to crash your show. That was not my intent, pal.
I don't believe you were ill-intentioned at all.
Okay. So have a good day.
You too. We'll talk later. Take care.
All right.
All right. I just want to address some of these comments and then I'm calling it a day. You should know your pattern as well as his. If you're being honest with you, if you watch back, well, here I am. I would need to know specifics. Like if you have a clip or a timestamp, I haven't seen anything unwatchable to me. It's all been watchable to me. Okay, let's see what Daniel. I didn't know. Are you talking about me? What? I don't know what you're saying, Daniel. See, that's what I'm saying. None of you are giving statistics specific. This is so vague. If you watch back when you tried to counsel him, it's unwatchable because of the way you handle it. What about the way I handle him? I need the specific. This is not giving me information. And if this is directed to me, it's not either. I don't know what you're talking about. What is the multiple thing that people have tried to bring to my attention? Using what as an excuse? If y'all are trying to be helpful, you're not being specific enough. That I want to understand what you're saying, but you need to give me more. I'm not connecting the dots. Part of it is this, Head. Every time we try to be our natural self, it's a problem. I just want a space where I can be me. And if that's me being emotional because someone said some shit to me, or if that's me having 20 questions when someone's telling a story because I'm passionately, curiously interested in their story, then that's me. I want a space where I can be that. And I thought that's what I was building here. And I'm finding out all the people that I thought I was building with are suddenly freaking out and reacting to it. And I don't know why. Like, if this were happening a year ago, it would make sense. But it's happening like a year later after everything running more or less smoothly. Here I am. Do you have a specific, are you here? Do you realize how general this is that you're saying? Do you have a specific problem with a specific attempt of me trying to solve that you could say you did this and this and this and and it had this effect, or you could have done this instead. And like that's the kind of helpfulness if you're trying to be that I would need. No, I'm sorry. You're not going to gaslight me that you were specific when you were not. I just pointed out all the ways that you were overly general and vague. There's not a single specific thing I can make use of in your comment. Yes, people are not freaking out for no reason, but they can be freaking out for reasons that have nothing to do with me. Well, Philip, then I'm screwed. I don't have a choice. I'm not sacrificing I can't sacrifice my emotions. I need them. They allow me to access thoughts and images and creativity that I can't access without. That's what passion is. People that don't have passion don't understand passion. It's passion. I don't apologize for it. I don't. All right, let me see here if I can find the comments. Okay, I'm seeing more comments from you, but they're still vague. I went away because you attack him over nothing. That's very general. I don't know what specific attack you're talking about. I could run that experiment. You think the antlers might have something to do with it? I could try it. Okay. But that's my point here, that if my emotional reactions are hurting other people, there's nothing there's nothing that I currently know to do about them, and I choose not to do anything about them because I like I want my reactions. I'm not looking to change them. So if my reactions are hurting other people, the responsible thing to do would be for me to take myself away from those people or help those people create some distance from my reactions. And I don't think I've had that too, Philip. I talked about with my mom before. I didn't talk to her for like over 10 years, and when I let all that go, it was one of the most mentally healthy things I've ever done. So I have had that kind of emotion before, but what I'm expressing today is not that. This is very recent. Like this is all reactions to recent stuff that's been happening in the last, I don't know, month or so. I guess it depends on who you ask, Dr. Head. I don't. I guess that's my struggle here. I don't know what this general way is. I would need a specific, or maybe a few specific examples, and then I can start using induction to put a pattern together. But without that, I don't know what the general way is. If you don't like my personality, it's probably not going to change. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Frank. I'm wrapping up. I'm just trying to address comments. In fact, if you want to go warm up the seat, get the coffee on, get the snacks ready, I'll be there in like 5 minutes. Yes, that I agree here. Okay. Yeah, the antlers thing is it's a joke. I'm not. Yeah, I took it in the spirit it was intended. Okay, fair enough here. Fair enough. If you're ever able to send them to me or let me know. It's not that I'm not trying to learn and I'm not unwilling to look at these things. I just I need someone to show them to me before I know what they're talking about. So I think this is a good place to leave it. You make some fair points, and I'm in the middle of this as it's happening. So I'm trying to navigate myself out of it as well. Oh, she needs 20? Okay. Yeah, I can give her 20. All right, so here's the thing. No stream tomorrow. I will try to be back on Monday, maybe Tuesday. We'll see how it goes. Actually, the antlers are going to get an upgrade as soon as I can. Yeah. Stoicism and willful ignorance. Well, willful ignorance, and I mean, I'm sympathetic to stoicism myself. I just conceive it differently. Stoicism to me doesn't necessarily exclude having an emotional reaction. It's just what you do with it. And willful ignorance, I can't do anything about willful ignorance. Like, if other people are choosing to be ignorant, that's a choice they're making. And I can just like wish them the best. Well, I don't know, Dobez. I wasn't going to do one because I was going to give myself a little break. But did you want to, maybe you and I can plan a guest stream with just us? And then we can maybe take on individual callers with questions at the end. I'd be willing to try that. Hey, Dirt. Just wrapping up, actually. They have actual, I've seen them. They have like real antler horns. These are plastic, but they have some that are made of real deer horns. And so I might upgrade to some of those. Well, I tell you what, Dobez, let's do this. I won't set up a stream ahead of time, but if you wake up tomorrow and you or actually it'd be me waking up. If you tomorrow feel like a conversation, just hit me up on the Discord and I'll go ahead and get a stream set up, and we can like pick a few topics, do something a little more focused, and then maybe bring up panelists after that. But we can just like see how you feel tomorrow, if you want to do it or not. And then if I don't hear from you, I'll just take the day off. But if you decide you want to have a conversation, I'm willing to do a stream with me and you, and we can talk about something interesting and then bring other people on at the end. So possible stream tomorrow. I'll leave that up to Dolbez, and if I don't see you then, I'll see you Monday or Tuesday. I'll finish up that last little topic about romance, and then I'm working on it, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But have a good. Oh, Dolbez, I'm quite sure I could handle a conversation with you. In fact, it would probably do me good. It would probably be a nice break and somewhat therapeutic. So yeah, just hit me up tomorrow if you feel like it. I'm totally up for it. If not, we could do it another time. All right, that's it for me. Go do something fun this weekend. There's probably all kind of things going on. The Panelverse tonight. I know Machine is streaming. Flo will probably be on. There's Talcott, the usual. See y'all later. Take care.